Okay, the time is now 7 p.m. and I'll call this meeting to order. If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To start, I'll read the notice for tonight's public hearing. In accordance with the town charter requirements, the Board of Finance will hold a public hearing on the proposed budget for the fiscal year 2026 to 2027 at 7 p.m. on Monday, May 4th, 2026, in the Plainfield Town Hall Auditorium at 8 Community Avenue, Plainfield, Connecticut 06374. All electors of the town and eligible property owners who wish to be heard will be allowed to do so at this hearing. Okay, we will now do the opening comments from the first selectman and superintendent, and the superintendent will start by speaking first.
Thank you. Kevin, are we doing these from our seats and not going up to the podium? Thank you. Sounds great. Good evening, members of the board, fellow community members, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. There's two items that I'd like to draw people's attention to. One is this one-page summary sheet of the board. The other one is a longer document. Both of these are in the back. On our website, there are comprehensive budget documents, answers to Q&A, and two different presentations, I believe, related to our budget. I'm here to discuss the school's proposed budget for the 26-27 school year. As we look at the numbers before us, we have to recognize that this budget recognizes a strategic effort to balance some very real fiscal challenges facing all of education. When we look at the financial snapshot, the total budget request is for $40,690,001. This represents a 3.99 increase over the previous year. However, context is important here. Before this number was finalized, nearly $2 million was cut from initial administrative costs. So where is this money going? I believe that the breakdown of the budget increase states this very well. The majority of this increase is driven by non-discretionary obligations, primarily the rising cost of health insurance. In fact, almost 61% is simply due to changes in benefits that have risen, totaling more than $920,000. You'll see that the primary increase in the budget is in these fixed charges. To put that in perspective, without those rising charges, we're actually looking at a budget increase of approximately 1.6%. Because of these fixed cost hikes, the districts had to make some tough strategic sacrifices. To offset the rising costs, this budget reduces 18 positions district-wide, 11 certified and 7 non-certified. These cuts were not arbitrary. They were made by the Board of Education based on data shifts and current enrollment trends to ensure things were being efficient as possible. Administrative efficiency outside of the buildings is also prioritized, including the reduction of an IT position, transitioning a grounds position to part-time, and reducing one of the administrative roles as reflected in this budget to a 10-month contract. This is in addition to reductions made in the administrative offices last year. When we look at this school by school, starting at the elementary level, the Shepherd Hill budget is increasing by a very modest 1.7%. To achieve this, the school is actually reducing 2 teacher positions aligned with the projected enrollment drop in grade 3. At Moosup Elementary School, that budget is actually decreasing by 1.82%. This cost saving is achieved by reducing a grade 2 and a grade 3 teacher, again based on enrollment shifts, while still managing at both of these schools to increase the funds for mathematics instruction, teacher supplies, and technology. At the intermediate and middle school levels, Memorial School requires a 6.89% increase. This is primarily to shift a teacher to Memorial School, again based on enrollment, and to increase the instructional budget for mathematics. It should be noted that among the cuts not reflected when I say that there were 18 position cuts was that Memorial School did ask for an additional grade 5 teacher that was cut from the initial budget. At Plainfield Central Middle School, we see a responsible 3.12% increase, which absorbs some of the facilities upgrades that need to take place there, but also includes the reduction of 1 certified position. Finally, at Plainfield High School, we see our second major budget reduction. The high school budget's actually decreasing by almost 1.5%, 1.47 actually. As mentioned earlier, the high school is taking the brunt of the staffing cuts due to reduced enrollment. This is reducing 4 certified teachers and 1 career coordinator. Despite these cuts, the school is still maintaining full funding, growing the CNA program, and placing funding for our music and marching band. Despite these cuts and despite the insurance hike, we have an obligation to educate our children. This budget projects with our 6-year strategic plan to implement a robust new mathematics curriculum, shifting our focus from where we've grown in literacy to numeracy. It provides targeted resources to desperately address what we saw as a 2024 athletic dip, particularly in mathematics and the need for mathematics to really grow at the high school and middle school. And crucially, it maintains our investments in student mental health, the increased hours for security guards, and keeping the school resource officer in our building. In closing, I recognize that a 3.99 increase is a significant ask of the taxpayers, but I want this community to know it's an honest one. It's an increase driven by health insurance and not overspending. It's a budget that cuts 18 positions and lowers the bottom line in 2 schools to make math work. And I urge the community to recognize the difficult balance the Board of Education struck here and to support this budget so we can keep putting our students first. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, and also the public. I'd like to do a small informational discussion on our proposed 2026 town budget. I want to share with the residents our proposal this year, which will include a minimal increase of 1.5 to 6% at the start of the year. But a new strategic plan, which we're talking about for the future to come, it's a management policies, and we're looking for a fund balance policy, a capital improvement policy, and capital reserve policy. I'd like to take the time to acknowledge all of our departments who served our residents all year long. Our proposals show that we would like to continue these services offered in Plainfield, and that we're looking not to just continue, but also to grow them and to do so being fiscally responsible, understanding the cost of the services to the taxpayers. We anticipate that we'll have an infrastructure oversight capital planning committee for facility needs assessment and long-term planning, roads and sewer improvement plans, developing a rolling 10-year plan for roads based on life cycle funding, and conduct comprehensive asset reviews for sewer systems. Multi-year capital planning model is going to implement a structured model to effectively distinguish between short, mid, and long-term infrastructure priorities. We're going to have a governance and public engagement to foster joint discussions between all the boards, enhance the public engagement, and provide annual infrastructure summaries. These new enhancements will serve the town of Plainfield for years to come. This year's grand list has grown to an additional 4.64%, and our tax burden has been on a decline for residential side by 2%. Thus, it places the increased burden on the tax roll for the 2% onto the commercial properties. When I'd written this originally, there was a different number here, but I'm going to share that with you because of what we heard from the state of Connecticut just today. For the recent announcement from the state funding giving supplemental aid to the town of Plainfield for an additional $898,227, and combining our proposed budget with the Board of Ed, we are presenting a mill decrease of 0.79, thus bringing the mill rate down to a 20.57. And this will be our second mill rate reduction in 7 years that was not brought on by revaluation. And we look forward to your questions about that proposal. And again, thank you very much to the Board of Finance for working with us over the last few months to whittle down our numbers already. So thank you.
Okay, so we would now move to public comment. If you'd like to come up to the mic, just state your name and your address.
Thank you. I'll turn the mic on.
Good evening. My name is Trav Harmon. I am a Moosup resident and an owner of a managed IT services company. I'm a sole host Gold Partner and partnerships with Veeam, Kaseya, Datto, and Microsoft, vendors whose products appear in tonight's current budgets. Earlier this month, I submitted a letter to the Board of Selectmen proposing a technology advisory commission for Plainfield. Tonight, I want to speak to why that commission benefits the work this board does every budget season. I stream town meetings online. While the police department was presenting their budget, numbers caught my eye. I reviewed the 26-27 technology budget line by line. One budget, one department, I identified between $22,000 and $36,000 in annual overspending. Examples: the police department's Sophos firewall goes end of life in June, less than 60 days from now. That means the police technology budget is wrong. We are allocating money for a product that will not exist before the first checks are written. VMware licensing exploded after the Broadcom acquisition. Switching to Proxmox reduces that cost by nearly 80%. Next year, VMware is expected to increase 350%, something a commission that would be able to predict. The managed IT contract for the police is budgeted at $52,916. Market rate is between $40,000 and $48,000. A proper RFP with the right people involved reduces that cost. The entire weapons budget for 22 officers is $24,500. Savings on those contracts alone approaches that number, giving the police better spending power and less money out of the people's tax dollars. That's one department. This year's budget shows that technology spending across the board. The same risks exist for all those departments. Shortly, this board will approve those numbers without anyone verifying whether they are priced correctly. The budget also proposes a new full-time IT position at $110,000. That is good. A technology advisory commission gives that person a policy framework and gives this board oversight to ensure that investment produces results. Hamden, Collin, Litchfield, New Canaan have all done this. Vendor selection improved, contracts got competitively bid, money stayed in the towns. Plainfield can do the same. The proposal is in the front of the Board of Selectmen. I'm asking the members of this board to make their support heard tomorrow. The savings start with the moment the right people in the room. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we decided there was some time limit for comments.
No, we can set a time limit. Would anyone else like to speak?
I guess I'm going to.
All right, gang. You want to go first?
Yeah, I was just wondering why the budget has to be so high when we now have Uline. What kind of taxes are they bringing into the town? We now have Amazon, who's been there and is now online. We're proposing all of these new industries or warehouses coming into town, and I don't see any relief for the town people. Yeah, insurance costs are high, but they're high for everybody. So I'd like to know what kind of contribution is Uline providing to give some benefit to the town.
Can we get your name, please? Can we get your name, please?
Pardon?
Your name?
I thought I said it. Paul Yoshen, who's up?
Thank you.
All right, Gaggy. Start by saying I was glad to see that the state revenue was increased. I hope that goes to lowering taxes, which you said it does. I got a few statistics. This is birth rates in America. In 2005, there were 4,138,000 births. In 2015, there were 3,978,000 births. In 2025, there were 3,600,000 births. In Connecticut, births dropped from 56,659 in 1960 to 33,460 in 2020. With the 394 students that go to other schools or are homeschooled, we have 2,140 student-aged children. The national senior citizen population in 1980 was 25.5 million. It's grown by millions every year to its current level of 62 million. Go Boomers. Around 3,000 in Plainfield now. So you see where I'm going here. I'm going to start with the town side, which has been cut by $150,000 at the workshop and $115K from the Capitol. I do appreciate the transparency going line by line. I hope it doesn't change much. About the election official increases, you should not be treating that personal The town clerk and the tax collector shouldn't have to get up to defend that increase, no more than the selectmen not getting an increase because they haven't been on the job too long. The only performance review for them is the election. If there are contractual increases in the town, those positions should get an increase also. And I would ask that you leave them as they are to try and catch them up to today's standards. As I said in the beginning, our senior population is increasing. You went from $73,276 in the senior expenses down to $53,000 after the workshop. I wish we would restore that. My other comments are on capital. First is the capital non-recurring. I think without the policy in place, it looks like a placeholder for anything. If we have $500,000 to spend, let's know what it's being spent on. Second would be $100,000 that was slated for Lions Park, now going to Warwigan Playground and Little League. I'll address the Little League first. Another statistic was raised at your workshop. The fact that it was by a resident. The fact that there used to be over 500 kids in Little League. Now there's around 250. I think it might be time to downsize, live within our means. And Warwigan Playground, that gets vandalized by its residents all the time. I'm from Central Village. We've had our playground removed decades ago, never to be seen again. What I would propose is that we take this money and build a nice playground at the old annex site. Both villages would have access to a safe playground. Now to advocate for senior citizens. I am all for putting the elevator in the town hall. I hope that stays. I listed 5 senior needs. Transportation. Driver for all senior vehicles. Seniors shouldn't be asked to pay. Healthcare. American Legion ambulance. We put the same kind of stipulations on $250,000. Seniors need that. Taxes. Lower them as much as possible, and that's for any age. Activities. I would have liked to see money for Lions Park to have bandstand put in for seniors. Social services. This would be contributions. All I can say is we could do better. As for the education department, I base my comments on the whole sum rather than getting too in-depth. From the 25-26 budget to the proposed 26-27 budget, we are losing 110 students. And at a low average of $20,000 per student, that's $2.2 million. We should be able to reduce, except that we have $1,562,180 of increases, which by my math would be a $637,820 reduction to the proposed budget. Not to mention 55 of those students were lost at the beginning of this budget year. What happens to that 1.1 million? While I appreciate the cuts from the education, it looks like the student population is going down faster than the cuts. And I don't think poaching students from other schools for a psychologically based magnet school will help. All that will do is hurt other towns that are struggling. Like I said before, concerning kids at the Little League, we need to live within our means. Downsize. All the statistics I mentioned last year, we have 175 teachers. Out of those 175 teachers, 96 make over $80,000. We have 2 kindergarten teachers that make $93,000. I still think it's top heavy. I'm asking the Board of Finance to cut the education budget by $1 million. That should give them close to 1 million more than what they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak?
No,
Hi, Jan Cunningham, Lisa. I would like to see the budget stay as is. And hope it does go through. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Edward Sullivan. I've been here for over 60 years. Just a thought. How about a new income stream? Speed cameras. They're very popular in the west end of the state. We've got people peeling off of our state roads onto our residential roads at high rates of speed, 50, 60 miles an hour. A lot of our villages that were run down after the mills closed many years ago are revitalized. There's 2 and 3 and 4-year-old children on those residential streets again. Speed cameras. Let's get up here with the west end of the state. As far as education, I suggest we cut a little bit of administration, raise the salaries, and hire more teachers. We have a heck of a lot less students. We're closing schools. We're making jobs for people for the closed schools. Let's get rid of administration and get teachers. And make sure them teachers are well paid. Thank you. My name's Edward Sullivan. Been here 60 years. I'm 72. I can afford whatever you want to do.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Sherry O'Rell. I'm from Old Plainfield. I go to the senior center 5 days a week. 2 of them I usually work. Also to the Veterans Coffee House. And Friday, because the budget got cut, my friend and I volunteer and deliver Meals on Wheels every Friday. So I hate to see anything else cut from the rec department and seniors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chris McIntyre from Plainfield. President of Plainfield Lily. This is my 2nd year, and as was stated earlier, living within our means. Our league has been fortunate enough to grow by plus 30 players each year the last 2 years. So if we cut back in 5 years, we're going to have to rebuild. We're not getting a lot of money from the town anyway. What we are getting does help, and we appreciate the help the town is giving us. The parks look absolutely amazing right now. We just had opening day last weekend and got nothing but great kudos from everybody there, parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, and people from out of town. And that's in part from the volunteers that we have at the Little League, as well as the town and what they are pouring in. And I say pouring in, it's not like we're being given an unwritten check here, a blank check. We're trying to live within what is available. And one of the asks this year and last year was a load of dirt for our infields. Without that dirt, the field become unplayable and become unsafe. And I won't stand for that, nor will any of our volunteers. There's been times in the past where the volunteers have taken money out of their own pocket, not out of the league fund, out of our own pockets, to put dirt on the fields for these kids. You know, we talk about vandalism at parks, we talk about these kids have nothing to do, but Little League is trying. And with plus 60 over the last 2 years that I've been involved, we're getting more kids out of the vandalism and onto the parks and doing things on the field. And when we have, as a town, 7 T-ball teams. I'll repeat that, 7 T-ball teams. That's 12 players per team, 84 T-ball players, ages 6, 7, 8, playing T-ball. That's where the majority of our growth is coming from. We need 2 T-ball fields. We absolutely need 2 T-ball fields. In fact, just this evening, we were talking about scheduling and how we are going to utilize one of our junior-senior fields for T-ball teams to practice on because we only have 2 T-ball fields. And we are very fortunate to have 2 T-ball fields, but we have 7 teams. If you do the math, that doesn't math out to allowing these kids to get out and play on 2 fields. So we're utilizing other parks that we have. So I understand the budgetary constraints, but I ask that we please continue supporting and funding the Plainfield Little League in any way possible to help these kids do something that they love and do something that keeps them from vandalizing, from sitting inside, from not being with other kids. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Brownman, a citizen of Plainfield. I'd like to state that I am speaking tonight as a private citizen, not as a member of any board or commission. And the opinions are strictly my own. I was quite a bit troubled after the Board of Education presentation to the Board of Finance last month. There were some comments made that maybe the schools should stick to education and not athletics. Athletics are education. Youth sports are far more than just games. They're a vital part of education. As co-curricular programs within schools, athletics complement academics by developing students physically, mentally, socially, and emotionally. Together, these experiences prepare young people for success both in school and in life. With participation at an all-time high, sports continue to prove their value in American education. One of the strongest arguments for school athletics is their impact on physical health. In an age of increasing sedentary lifestyles and rising childhood obesity, organized sports provide structured, consistent physical activity. Participation improves fitness, supports healthy body composition, and reduces the risk of long-term health issues. Just as importantly, students who play sports are more likely to remain physically active into adulthood. Athletics are equally indispensable for mental health. Student athletes consistently report lower levels of stress, anxiety, and depression than their peers, proof that sports are a powerful antidote to today's mental health crisis amongst youth. Through competition and teamwork, young people develop resilience, confidence, and emotional control, skills that are critical in every aspect of life. Teams foster support networks, giving students a vital sense of belonging and purpose that helps them overcome the toughest challenges of adolescence. Academically, athletics reinforce, not detract from learning. Student athletes consistently demonstrate higher grades, better attendance, and stronger engagement in school. They are more likely to graduate and to pursue higher education. These outcomes reflect the habits athletics instill: discipline, time management, perseverance, and goal setting. The lessons learned on the field carry into the classroom. Beyond academics, sports shape character. They teach teamwork, leadership, accountability, and respect for others. Participation is also linked to lower rates of risky behaviors and stronger connections to school communities. In this way, athletics help develop not just better students, but better citizens. Education-based athletic programs align closely with the mission of schools by promoting responsibility, self-discipline, and personal growth. As opportunities expand, including growing participation in girls' sports, particularly flag football, these programs are reaching more students than ever before. Ultimately, athletics are not extras, they are essential. They build healthier bodies, stronger minds, and more capable individuals. Supporting youth sports means investing in a future generation that is physically active, mentally resilient, and prepared to succeed. Athletics are education.
Thank you.
Sam Darenthal from MUSA. I'll make this quick. This is just to show my support for this budget, not as a Board of Education member, but as a private citizen. But I also want to draw attention to the fact that it is Public Servants Week as well as Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week. And I think it's really ironic that we're here defending all of this when we are also saying, hey, we appreciate you. But I want to just be really clear that I've heard over and over and over again in the past 3 months that these boards and this administration has been the best and the most collaborative and the most detail-oriented in a way that is supportive and all on the same page about trying to make this budget work for our people. I think we've gotten a lot of great help over the past couple of years with Mrs. Brennan and Lisa joining, and I think this Board of Finance, this Board of Education, this Board of Selectmen have all really worked so hard on not only just going after a budget, but really getting into the infrastructure of what makes a budget and how to make it work. And we get to talk about sports and these things, and we got money from the state, as well as we have a rising cost in health insurance. I don't think is anything that I've ever heard of, and I've looked into it, and this is a really big. Can you imagine if we didn't have that? We would have a $600,000 increase right now, or about there. So I just want to say thank you, and just so everyone at home, most of these people, and 99% of these people are volunteers, and that doesn't mean that we don't care or that we can complain about it, because I haven't heard a single person here or on any board that I've been to complain about their role. And I'm just really excited and really happy to see a future with a budget like this. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to break your setup here. Can everybody still hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Good evening, Matt Radant from MUSA, part-time mill rate enthusiast. I too will try to keep my remarks brief. I can summarize it in the good, the bad, and the ugly here. So starting with the good, it does seem to be a nominal mill rate decrease, which I'm sure would make a lot of people happy if they haven't had the time to really dive into the budget or don't have strong feelings about line items either way. Factoring in that fund balance usage, I know there was a lot of discussion about the size of the fund balance, what we should be doing with some of those dollars, how best to spread that out over time. So that kind of rolls into the good there. I know that we're utilizing a fair chunk of that to help defray some of the costs and bring that mill rate down. On to the bad, there was a lot of discussion about the fund balance total and what we should be doing with those dollars and how we should be spreading it out. And I think that while it is commendable to be utilizing some of what might be an overage in the fund balance, given that it is composed of largely tax dollars, if not solely tax dollars, that we should also keep in mind what the mill rate increase would have been had we not gone to the fund balance to offset some of these contractual costs, these health insurance cost increases. So by my math, before the news from today, it looked like that would have been a little bit over a 2 mil increase. Just looking at the value per mil against how much money is coming out of the fund balance for usage, I may be wrong on that, but there's still a good chunk of dollars that we would have had to be raising by taxation if not going to the fund balance. On to the ugly. I think it's already been spoken to by numerous individuals that we're looking at huge increases in health insurance costs, a lot of contractual obligations that had large costs associated with it as well. And I call that kind of ugly because a lot of that seems to be well beyond what we as a town really have any ability to affect. It happens so far upstream of Plainfield, Connecticut, that we kind of sit here and we're left to our own devices to try to figure out how best to maneuver around the boulders coming at us rather than being able to get to the top of the mountain and find out where all these boulders are coming from. And I guess to try to put that into another way of thinking about it, I tend to go back to looking at just the dollar, right? How much does a dollar buy you at this point? I graduated high school in 2008. Great time, great recession, very interesting commencement speeches coming from folks. And, the dollar has lost a little over 53% of its value since that year, right? Nobody was telling us that might happen. And surely it didn't destabilize everything, but it was a destabilizing time. Since 2020, the dollar's lost 27% of its value. The COVID class had enough on their plates. I'm sure nobody would have put that onto the commencement speeches as well to try to give them a heads up. And when we look at that, we're looking at the dollar being debased so much that you have to start looking at the big movers and shakers that are driving some of this. And we do look at the federal government and their relationship with the states and what the funding looks like and where interest rates are. And when you do that, you realize that from 2008, when the national debt was around 10 trillion, acute 10 trillion compared to where it is now at about 39 trillion, things seem to be speeding up financially, right? You have a debt to GDP level, which since the end of Obama's first term has been at or above 100%, right? So your national debt is just as big as the metric they use to measure your economy. And since 2020, it's been, on average, north of 120%. It's easy to overlook some of these figures if you're not boring like me and just looking at them for fun, but they've become so pervasive and such a part of the environment, I think it's so heavily discounted that these are real factors that are driving a lot of things like cost of living and everything that flows downstream from there. So when we're talking about health insurance costs, when you're talking about the wages people need to keep up with what is quite overtly currency debasement to try to get around what is eventually going to be a debt crisis of some sort, we have to sit here and ask, there's talk about are sports on the same level as literacy and numeracy? Is it going to be 2 softball fields or 1? Those are questions that nobody wants to be entertaining. But in the backdrop, we also have to keep in mind, we're already on a timeline here where these cost of living increases are more like little explosions in the way they've led up to be real sizable issues. You can see why I called it the ugly at this point. So, long story short, I can't recommend any reductions in the budget today. I know that it was a very difficult year looking through some of those lines, trying to get around what ended up being a health insurance fiasco from a liquidity perspective. And I believe the town likewise has done a lot of hard work to try to make sure that they're getting out in front of growing the tax base, bringing in businesses. There's mixed opinions on those businesses, but we are growing the grand list. I would really hope that we're putting a lot of attention onto this quickly moving snowball downhill that is going to be these continued large increases in cost of living, health insurance, and similar costs. So appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Unlike Sam and others, I thought this would be short, so I apologize in advance. Good evening, Plainfield residents, and members of the Board of Finance and Board of Education. My name is Chris Russo, and I've been a resident of Plainfield for over 10 years, living in Moosup with my wife, young son, baby daughter. First, as a social studies teacher, I'm happy to see all the civic engagement occurring. Thank you to all those who came out to speak, to those watching, and those who shared their opinion on Plainfield residents already. For the audience, I want to apologize to my fans. I'll be a few minutes as I go over data from our teachers gathered over the past 4 years, statewide data, and the sheer volume of financial realities presented by our district. For context of where my next statements come from, I've been a social studies teacher for the past 10 years, 9 of which lived in Plainfield, and I'm currently at Plainfield Central Middle School. I'm also the Membership and Public Relations Chairman for the Plainfield Teachers Union, the PEA. However, my views do not represent the PEAs or the Board of Education. With that being said, based on internal surveys done in the past 3 years, the overwhelming amount of Plainfield teachers likely would and do agree with my statements today. As well, if I can finger on the pulse of the employees of the Plainfield School District, both my PEA role as well as personally, I know my statements would probably be supported by the custodians, paraeducators, secretaries, nurses, and all other staff. Now, when I teach, I try to do a lot of hands-on activities, and I find I get great student engagement. So I want to ask those in attendance today, please raise your hand if you currently have a child in the Plainfield School District. Okay, thank you. So I'm here tonight to vehemently urge the Plainfield residents and the Board of Finance to approve the Board of Education's budget as proposed without a single additional cut. I know this will mean a mill rate increase, although that looks like that recently just changed, which is great. But it's an absolute right and necessary move to make. I've been criticized for advocating for a pay increase for myself and other staff in Plainfield. And while that is true, if there were a tax increase, it would still hurt us resident teachers and staff as well, as the town has incredibly underpaid or frozen our pay for many years. I and other teachers have also been accused of blindly going along with whatever the Board of Education and Mr. Brendan want since I worked for or under them. However, to clarify, and other teachers do not agree, myself and other teachers do not always agree with the Board of Education or Mr. Brendan on what they say or do, but we have internal avenues to address that, which we don't put on Plainfield residents for obvious reasons. Anything I or the PEA put online to help our teachers, the children, and the school system. We don't talk or air about our dirty laundry. Likewise, if you have complaints about the school system, voting against the budget instead of going to the Board of Education meetings and voicing your concerns, or meeting or talking to Mr. Brendan is a short-term reaction that creates long-term costs for our taxpayers. We are currently looking at a proposed Board of Education budget for the 26-27 fiscal year that asks for a 3.99% increase, or about $1.5 million, which may be reduced, it sounds like. I want to be perfectly clear with the taxpayers in this room. This is not a bloated budget. Having been to all the budget meetings over this past year, I can tell you that this is a budget that has already been cut to the bone. When the school administrators first admitted their genuine need to properly run the district back in December, the initial increase was over 9%, an increase of over $3.5 million. The superintendent and his team and the Board of Finance worked hard to slash nearly $2 million from that initial request before it ever reached the board and the citizens. They dug deeply, reassigned staff, made horrible sacrifices to deliver a budget under 4% because they recognized what the town could realistically bear. Due to this less than 4% increase, the district had already eliminated 18 positions. Let that sink in. 18 positions have been removed from our schools to save money. We've had residents clamor that we do not have enough enrollment in PHS and other locations to justify the staffing, and so the Board of Education hurriedly made adjustments. This includes 4 certified teachers at the high school, multiple elementary teachers based on enrollment, and crucial support roles including part-time paraeducators and a social worker. Furthermore, over the last few years, we've continually made cuts to essential programming, including computer and mathematics programming. We cannot cut any further without drawing blood. If we already have 18 cut positions inside programming, you might ask, why is the budget still going up by $1.5 million? As Mr. Brendan previously explained, the answer is fixed uncontrollable costs, such as the health insurance, a 7% rate increase in transportation, and skyrocketing special education outplacement costs. Inflation and national decision and trends, as previously mentioned, hurt all aspects of life. Not just our personal lives, but our schools and local government are not shielded from this either. We recognize the immense burden this places on the local taxpayer. But as Mr. Brendan and members of the Board of Finance have rightfully pointed out before, the solution to this is not starving our local schools. The solution is petitioning the state to change how the ECS, or the Education Cost Sharing formula, is measured for our districts. Towns like Plainfield, which do not have a massive tax base, should not be forced to foot the bill for expensive state and federal mandated requirements while our townspeople suffer. We need to work together as a town to demand a fair share from Hartford, but until the system changes, we have to adequately and appropriately fund the system that we do have now. I've heard the argument that we should cut this budget because residents do not want to increase funding for a school system that appears to be underachieving in test scores. Let me be clear, cutting the budget of a struggling school district is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you take resources away from students who are already fighting an uphill battle, their performance will not magically improve. It will plummet. We cannot expect our educators to perform miracles without the tools to do so. If anyone in this room believes that they can improve this budget, or run this district and improve their test scores with even fewer resources than we are currently proposing, I invite you to please talk to the Board of Education or Mr. Brendan. Because the reality is, tying teacher compensation to state testing or cutting resources to punish low scores ignores the massive hurdles our educators face every day, including extreme behavioral needs, many students with 504 and IEP plans, and the lack of early intervention support. The struggles we are facing in Plainfield are part of a massive statewide crisis. A recent CEA, or Connecticut Education Association back-to-school survey of nearly 1,000 educators released in September revealed alarming statistics that perfectly mirror what our own staff are reporting. 98% of educators statewide cite stress and burnout as their top concern. 90% point to problems with student behavior. 74% say student behaviors and socialization skills are worse than ever before the pandemic. 65% of teachers have been forced to evacuate classrooms due to threatening situations that jeopardize student safety. And 39% of all educators and a staggering 74% of special education teachers report being physically harmed by students. This statewide data is playing out right here in the hallways. In our own PEA climate surveys, Plainfield staff are crying out about extreme student behaviors. Cutting this budget means cutting the very shield that protects our classrooms, our paraprofessionals, our board-certified behavior analysts, or BCBAs, and our school resource officer program, which successfully dropped physical altercations by 50% this year. Do not cut the funding that is keeping our children and our staff safe. We cannot afford to lose more teachers. This CEA survey also found that 45% of teachers are considering early retirement or leaving the profession due to unmanageable stress, escalating behaviors, and uncompetitive pay. Furthermore, 50% of teachers said that they are not provided with all the materials they need, forcing them to dig into their own pockets. I and many others in the district feel this, thinking about other professions besides teaching, because teaching in Plainfield is burning us out. In Plainfield, we are living this exodus. From 2001 to 2025, we've had an average of 31.25 certified staff leaving each year. In the 23 to 24 school year alone, we had an astounding 46 certified staff leave, which was a 24% turnover rate. Last year, we had 28. This year, we already had 14 who have or will leave, and will absolutely lose more by the end of the summer to neighboring districts that offer significantly better pay and working conditions. For example, I can go up north 15 minutes and make $6 grand more right now. I can go south 20 minutes and make 20 grand more right now. We are losing talented educators to districts that are signaling that they value us, and filling those vacancies puts massive strain on the veteran teachers left behind. We are so broke that teachers are reporting we don't even have access to basic supplies like toner, staples, tissues, and paper towels. This is not a knock on the admin or custodians. You just cannot maintain a high-quality education system when your staff are fleeing and your classrooms lack the basics. When you look at the capital improvement plan, you'll see that we are not asking for luxury upgrades. We're asking for funds to fix stair treads, repair outside doors, replace water main valves, and remove dead trees that pose a safety risk. We had a heater on top of the cafeteria at Shepherd Hill fail, forcing the district to spend $2,000 a week on temporary heaters during the coldest months. Neglecting building maintenance is a deferred cost that leads to more expensive emergency repairs and creates a toxic environment for learning. We have already deferred multi-million-dollar HVAC overhauls to a future town bond to protect taxpayers today. But we cannot cut the basic operational maintenance required to keep the lights on and the doors working. Finally, I want to address the sentiment I hear frequently. Many residents vote against the school budget because they say, I don't have kids in the system anymore. I don't feel like I'm getting anything out of the school, so why should my taxes go up? To that I say, public education is not a transactional service meant only to help right now. It is an instrumental investment in the future of our society. For example, I've never driven on Brookside Drive in Plainfield. However, I'm more than happy knowing my tax dollars go to support the people who drive on it to have a safe roadway. That's why our taxes go to public education and we all pay for it. This is the right thing to do to support our community with the understanding that we shouldn't take away from future or current generations. Voting against this budget because your children have already graduated is pulling that ladder up behind you. It punishes the next generation of Plainfield residents. Furthermore, go on Zillow right now, and if you look at the school ratings for any house in Plainfield, if we let our schools fail, fewer families will move here, we will lose great taxpayers, and our property values will plummet to pre-COVID levels. Funding our schools is the single greatest investment you can make in the equity of your own home and the economic survival of this town. I want to touch on the pay raises, as there's many residents who may not know how teachers and other contracts work. Having been on contracting negotiation committees for the past 2 contracts, our pay raises are forecasted out 3 years for our union. It is similar to the other unions and services in our district. Forcing the Board of Finance to cut our budget is not going to decrease pay or benefits. They have already been completed contractually, and the Board of Education needs to legally abide by the contracts. That being said, the cuts would come from staff and positions being cut, further hurting our kids on top of the 18 positions already cut. Currently, the Board of Education is in contract negotiations with our paraprofessionals. Of all the contracts, this is the one most likely to be affected by the budget cut this year, if voters decide to cut the budget. We need our paras. They are invaluable to the schools and the district, and as already known by Mr. Brenton to the Board of Finance, they aren't paid enough. We will likely have some retire in the next few years, and I'm not sure if others want to come to a town that can't pay what Uline is paying and has a parents not valuing education. While I'm going to advocate for myself, my peers, and my profession, those of us who are still in this profession in 2026 in Plainfield are doing it to the support of our individual schools, our peers, a few select parents, and our students. The reason that we all became teachers is to shape and grow the young minds of tomorrow, future engineers, scientists, and the leaders of the next generation. We are trying to do the best we can with what we have. It reminds me of a quote carved on the sentry post in Afghanistan: "We, the unwilling, led by the unknowing, are doing the impossible for the ungrateful. We've done so much for so long with so little, we are now qualified to do anything with nothing." Having been to Iraq and Afghanistan during the surge in the late 2000s, if you had told me I'd be more stressed out teaching 8th graders in a small school district than getting shot at and blown up, I wouldn't have believed you. If you had told me when I got my teaching degree that I had to fight this hard just to keep good educators and secure mediocre pay, I wouldn't have believed you. But here we are again in 2026. The PEA climate survey shows a staff that is trauma bonded and burnt out, yet still deeply dedicated to our children who believe in our town's future. They are telling us loudly and clearly that this district is flying a plane with limited fuel and tired pilots. To cut this budget further is to ignore the glaring warning lights on the dashboard. It is with profound irony, as previously mentioned, that as we celebrate Teacher Appreciation Week, we're having this public forum where we're anticipating more citizens against this budget than for it. The district worked really hard to ensure that this was a fair budget that had a chance to pass and would not hurt our students and staff further than they can already bear. A bigger loss of the polls on May 18th would be absolutely devastating for our kids, our buildings, and our town's future. Please support our teachers, support our staff, and support our students. I'll leave you with the words of Connecticut's own Roger Sherman, who helped draft the Declaration of Independence and signed that, along with the U.S. Constitution, as well as proposing the Connecticut Compromise system of representation that we currently have in Congress, who once said, "Education is the key to unlocking the potential of the individual and the progress of society." Let's choose to make that investment in our children and our town on May 18th. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else who would like to speak tonight?
Hello, my name is Robert Colley from Oregon, Connecticut. Not really prepared, so my apologies for my inability to publicly speak. We had all these great speakers, very, very nice. I haven't heard anybody speak on this, and first of all, I'd like to start out with a positive too, is thank you to the volunteers. I try to watch your meetings, that Art does, and I'm like, oh, geez, if I can't get there and I see it's 2 hours and 25 minutes long, I'm like, oh my God, it's like, so I appreciate it. I mean, I'm not always in agreement, and I'll be frank with you, but I do appreciate that you guys do that. I know you guys all go to a lot of meetings, and it's impressive, so I appreciate that. Secondly, on the positive note is, I appreciate, Kevin, that you were able to secure the money from the state, and you're giving it, as it appears, to reduce the mill rate. I mean, I believe in Connecticut now, let's face it, we're not in the best of columns as far as taxation. We're pretty much on the top of the ladder when it comes to being overtaxed in this state. And if it wasn't probably for Massachusetts or Rhode Island and New York, and probably just as bad, if not worse, we'd be in a world of hurt. We have an out-migration in this state, I believe. You see other states throughout the country that are booming in population. We don't have a lot of people moving into Connecticut. And as you can see, I heard I am a worker for the town of Plainfield. And I did work today, and I heard a longtime employee at the Plainfield High School, and I overheard her. She's in this room, so I hope I don't put her on the spot. But she said, I haven't been in Plainfield High School in a while, and she goes, I forgot how beautiful it is. And it is, it really is. I've been living in this town for over 60 years, so there's my age. And I remember when we tore down the Plainfield High School. I know some of you have been around since then. It wasn't an old building by any means, a brick building, I think 45 years old, that we tore down and put that up. And it is gorgeous, but I remember going to meetings and seeing, and that was supposed to be for 800 students. We were on the rise. That's the way they were going in town. I believe now, Mr. Brett can tell me, we have 500 kids there now. So, with that said, you know, I know everybody, on my second part of it, you know, I appreciate as far as the mill rate and as far as that, but I do have to address, which I haven't heard. I vaguely looked at the budget, and it is kind of concerning. I just kind of want to know, as far as the raises and the pay increases. First selectman, 9.63, second and third, 9.63, tax collector, 9.63, clerk, 9.63, register. First of all, I don't know, maybe we can explain what the 9.63 number is. I don't know where that came from, but we're used to seeing the 3% at the most and whatnot, but that's a little concerning. My question is this something that I'm not aware of that's new? Is this going to be every year? Is this something that, you know, when we're looking at tax increases, and let's face it, I know we talk about mill rates, but we can play with that number. Bottom line is the percentage. Let's talk about percentage. Household real estate, the property tax, over the last 3 years, on average, I can't speak for everybody, it's going up 25%. Between 21, I tested a few homes, and 26%. That's the reality. So it is nice to see something for the taxpayers. I believe a lot of times, I like to speak on my parents. They live on $52,000 a year. They've lived their whole lives in this town. And we forget about the senior citizens, I think, a lot. You know, everybody, you guys have to hear from every department head. They get a chance to define what they do and, you know, why they should be paid this and why they should be paid. But a lot of times the senior citizens don't have a voice. And I think you guys are our voice and their voice as well. It's a tough thing to do. You have to weigh each side of the coin, you know. What employee deserves, I think, and that's another thing. Deserves is one ingredient, I believe, in the cake. You know, it's one thing to say you deserve, but we also have to think about what we have as far as money to pay. Where is that money coming from? You're taking money from other people. I get that. That's how government works. And I applaud that you try to take that into consideration. And thank you.
Thank you.
Sheriff again. I just want to add some stuff. The Recreation Department does a lot of stuff for the seniors and other people. Exercise classes, they have a nail doctor there, they have Hartford Health Care, they do have crafts, what else? I said movies, and meals, you know, and that helps. There's a lot of us seniors there, and I really enjoy going there. And the senior club does meals every other month, and we are also the travel department for trips, which I'm doing my share of traveling. But please don't cut any more of recreation and seniors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I know all of you know me as a department head. Today I'm here as a resident. My name is Beth Anderson. I live on Daggett Street in Moosa. I'm here to support both budgets going in as is. To speak to salaries a little bit on all ends, trust me, I'm a family of 6. I know things are tight. But I'm also a believer in investment in our staff, in our town, in our schools. If we don't pay professionals to stay, they will find somewhere else to go. And you have to keep in mind, at a town and school level, those professionals can be really hard to find. So I implore both boards to, keep those things in mind. It sounds like you are, and I very much appreciate that. I have 4 children in 4 different schools in this town. So I value the education system here greatly. I know you guys are facing struggles every day, just like the town is, just like we as citizens are. But ultimately, it comes down to it being an investment in our community. We want to make it better. We want to make it stronger. We want to have a future that's strong as a community and for our children and our grandchildren. That starts today by making sure we're pushing through budgets that are fiscally responsible, but also are investing in our future as a town and as the school system. So again, I would just like to say my family and I are in support of both of these budgets and really hope to see those move forward so that we can start moving Plainfield in a forward direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else? Okay. Doesn't look like it. Okay. I just have a quick closing statement. So before we close tonight, I just wanted to take a moment to recognize the work that has went into this budget. The process started back in December for both the town and the schools. And since then, the Board of Finance has had many late nights reviewing it together, line by line, making impactful adjustments where needed to ensure that we're being responsible and transparent and forward-thinking for our community. The Board of Finance will meet again tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. in this room to make final adjustments on the budget and push forward to town referendum. I want to sincerely thank everyone who spoke tonight and who has shared their input throughout the entire process. Your perspectives and ideas are incredibly important to us, and they help guide our discussions and ensure we're making decisions that reflect the needs and the priority of our residents. And I would now be looking for a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, motion passes.